A couple of months ago, our friends at WeGoPay gave us a platform which you used to support this podcast, Living Truthfully. And we thank you for those of you that have gone through this journey with us. Now, we're going to give you something back. Imagine the possibility of buying airtime and getting some of that cash back. That possibility is now true with WeGoPay Airtime, an exciting new product for all your airtime purchases. WeGoPay is giving you a platform to buy your airtime and get 2% cashback on every airtime purchase. What's better, you can also earn more when you refer people using your unique invite code. You'll earn 2% for every purchase made from your referrals. And that cash is available immediately on M-Pesa, and you can use it to buy airtime or to pay other bills. Use *483*30# to start earning passive income. You purchase your airtime using the pay bill 787055 and use the account number as your phone number. Now I'll do you a solid. Use my code LT001 to start you off. Go ahead, purchase some airtime and get some passive income. This episode is brought to you by Minet Health. As a dad, the greatest gift I can give my family is security around their health. Do you know how the first time you have a child and all of a sudden there are medical expenses that come up that you never knew existed? Well, Minet has a great cover that caters for your young family. This cover is comprehensive and has features such as inpatient limits of up to 10 million shillings. It will take care of premature births, any complications during, after birth, or for both mom and child. For people who don't like the delivery room like me, this is such a sigh of relief because you know at least the finances are taken care of. It even takes care of you when you accompany your child of up to 10 years to the hospital as a caregiver. And that's just the inpatient cover. Outpatient caters for dental, optical, gynecological, urologists, and mental health services and is up to 2 to 3 times higher than other covers in the market. I highly recommend Minet Health, and it can be accessed online. They have made this purchasing process easier by creating a portal where any user can access their services directly from the website. To learn more about this cover, visit their Facebook page, Minet Kenya, or their website, collaborationkenya.minet.com. Buy your family a secure health future with Minet. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good happy new year, good whatever time it is, wherever you are. Welcome to Living Truthfully, episode 47, the podcast this year of our Lord 2020. Ukwaje, how are you? Where are you? What's going on in your world? Have you started the year well? What are you hoping for this year? I have such good hopes and dreams for you in the year 2020. You know, I've had all sorts of prophecies for 2020. But here's the best thing I've heard about 2020. 2020 is perfect vision. They call it Vision 2020 or 2020 Vision. And they say that with perfect vision, you get both hindsight and you get to see ahead. So they say hindsight is 2020 vision, but 2020 is also perfect vision for your eyes.
But hindsight is 2020 vision.
You know what? For me, this sets the tone for the conversation that I want to start us off with. Last week, we started the conversation about decade thinking. And this has had me reeling in thought. As we reflected on the last 10 years, we shared with you, Edward and Eric were here, just how much things can change in such a short period of time. A lot of the things that have happened for me in the last 10 years were not a function of planning, but rather chance. Some were luck, some were decisions I made, both good and bad. And a lot of it was God's grace as well. Just God's grace on my life. And it's interesting just being able to look back and see these things and with clarity. Now, all these things will happen again, as life and chance happen to all men. According to the good book, it's true. It says in Ecclesiastes that life and chance happen to all men. We, however, also have the opportunity to put some dreams and goals into place, even when we don't know how we're going to achieve them. To be honest, even in my worst of situations, I've always been a dreamer. I've probably survived some of my darkest days through a daydream. Sometimes it's a daydream that some things will change or get better. Sometimes just a daydream of what would have happened if circumstances would have been different. Some of those have been far-fetched dreams, but some have come to reality. I'll tell you one such story in a few, dream story in a few. But first I want to acknowledge some of the things that have happened in my circle just this last week. You see, in just 10 days into 2020, 2 people in my wider circle have committed suicide. I'm completely distressed about this. I'm disturbed at the rate in which men are killing themselves, and why this seems like the only option out. Now, please note, I'm not judging. I've been in depression, and I know what darkness feels like. I am intimately acquainted with it. I must have been maybe from 2 or from 3, a teenager whose world was not making sense at that time. I was sure that my parents hated me, my mom especially at the time. I didn't know who my biological father was. I was looking for him. I've spoken about this. I think I might have been broke. I didn't have pocket money. And maybe I hadn't even been visited in school. For whatever reason, at that point in my world, I was at my worst. And I decided to take my life. At the time, the plan was to overdose on pills. I think I wanted to overdose on Malaria Queen or something. I don't remember if I even acquired the pills at the time. But I know I was ready and my mind was completely made up. My parents were going to regret not loving me enough. My death would be my vengeance. I told you I was a dreamer, right? So I had a dream. And the dream was of my funeral, post-suicide. In this dream, my 2 younger brothers were completely crushed and devastated. I saw their pain. I saw them crying. I saw how their lives will never be the same because they lost their elder brother, and it made me very sad. Their pain in my dream was unbearable, and I thought it would not be fair for them to go through that pain for the rest of their lives. And for that reason, to save my brothers from their pain, I decided to live. I decided to live for my brothers, whom I love dearly. Often I tell them that they saved my life without even lifting a finger. So I know what it is to be hopeless. I'm just coming out of a depressive state. I know how it feels to have no way out. I know what it looks like to only see the past and the present. And any glimpse of the future is colored and marred by the choices and circumstances that have led us to this dark place. But I have a message for every man today that is in despair, that feels like they have little or no choice. Listen, guy, you don't have the complete picture, and you owe it to yourself to see the entire perspective of your circumstances. I am sorry about what you feel. But it's like those men that were asked to describe an elephant. They were touching, blindfolded, from different spaces. One said it looked like a trunk. It felt like a trunk because they were touching the leg. The other one said it was hard and smooth because they were touching the tusks. Someone said, it felt this way because they were touching the tail. None of them had the complete picture of what that elephant looked like. And I believe that often when we look at the darkness of our circumstances, we only see one part. You owe it to yourself to see the entire perspective of your circumstances. I'm so sorry that you feel hopeless, but believe me, there is always a way out. always. Every day above the ground gives you an opportunity to find that way out. And as one of those young brothers of mine says, every day above the ground is a good day. Bro, you're not weak. In the end, everything will be okay. And if it's not okay, then it's not the end. And for my other fellow brothers, the ones who get the opportunity to hear someone in despair and someone in distress, let's hear out our fellow brothers with empathy. Don't judge, just listen. Your judgment is unwelcome, and often could be what leads a brother over the edge. It may have been in 2002 or 2003 when I was out of university due to lack of school fees, starting out in adult life, when I hooked up with a bunch of guys older than me, and these guys were going back to their high schools to do some motivational talks. I liked the idea because I like to talk clearly. I have a podcast. And even though at the time I had nothing to motivate young people with, I went along. So we were in Kaptagat Girls High School in Eldoret when this man decided that it was time for me, Amani, to motivate. So as I stood up to speak, the only thing I could honestly and authentically speak about was dreaming. So I told those girls that they were only limited by their dreams, that anything they wanted to be or to have was attainable. I told them that they just had to be able to dream it. And in that talk, I decided to dream, and I shared my dream for when I turned 30. This dream included a German car, it included a house, and at least 1 million shillings in the bank. To be honest, after that, I never really worked directly towards those dreams. And in fact, to a large part, forgot about them, even as I made my career moves in my 20s. When I turned 30, my birthday party, and then in the middle of my speech before cutting cake, I had an oh my gosh moment. I had acquired all that and more. And I realized at that moment that even though it may seem naive and sometimes unrealistic, the world really belongs to the dreamers. The ones who refuse to accept a status quo. The ones who say that despite what I see right now, despite my circumstances, despite even my choices up until this point, I have a dream. And as we start this year, I want to ask you, what's your dream for this year? What's your dream for this decade? I came across this tweet by Sophia Chitemere, whose handle is I am Sophia_C, where she was giving tips on creating a vision board. And she outlined 8 areas that we should use to dream. It's the what, not even the how. These areas were relationships, career and business, health and wellness, spirituality, travel, volunteering and charity, education and self-development, and finances. And I determined to not just use these areas for myself, and I am creating my own vision board. I am dreaming again, but in the next few weeks, to also talk to guys on the podcast who can help us grow our dreams in these areas. Your circumstances should never stop you from dreaming. Because where you are at today, it only signifies where you are starting from. This decade, this one is for the dreamers. And I invite you, despite where you are, to join me in dreaming up our best lives. God bless.